Okay, so let's start with the 2018 A-level paper, question number 7, subsection 1. Some of these are very easy, guys. Question says, determine whether the following items are private goods, public goods, or common resources. So you just have to tell. What can you say, guys? Fish in the ocean? What are they? Which one? If you take the fish in the ocean, these are called common resources, no? Why are they called common resources? Because if you're going to fish, can you exclude someone? No, they are non-excludable, but they are rivalry. Now, let's say if I go in the morning and catch some fish and come, that means there could be less fish for you in that area to catch. So it's rival, but non-excludable. So we call those common resources. What about this, Lamai? What about broadcast television signals? Let's say your antenna, not the dialogue TV and all. I'm just talking about like the normal antenna, the signals that you get, radio signals, TV signals. These are, yes, these are called public goods, no? Why are they public goods? Now, these are called public goods. These are not your dialogue TV and stuff, guys. Remember back in the day, we had this rotating antenna, the one that you have to turn the antenna here and there to see whether it's clear or not. I don't know if you all remember, before this whole dialogue TV and POTV and all of that came in. So there, it's non-excludable. You can't stop someone from getting those signals. If you have antenna, automatically signals come to you. It's non-excludable and it's also non-rival. Just because my house is getting TV signals doesn't mean that your house will get less TV signals. So non-excludable, non-rival, you can call that public goods. Then what about this, Lamai? See, basic research on lifestyle and cholesterol level. A basic research, let's say, that is available for everyone. What do you all think? Someone has done a research and they have like published it openly. They have published it with the information. This is how you should live. This is how cholesterol works. It's non-rival. Just because I read the research online or wherever, that doesn't mean you can't read it. I also can read, you also can read. And given that this is like a basic research, that means it's freely available. So it's non-excludable as well. You can just go on the internet, there is no payment or anything. You can just search for this and you can read. So non-excludable, non-rival again. So this kind of things can also be munada, can also be public goods. Remember, guys, always when you all are categorizing these goods, try to look at the characteristics. It becomes very easy then. What about the fourth one, guys? Specific research on cholesterol, on lowering, on cholesterol lowering drug for which a patent can be obtained. What do you think? A specific research, right? So where you can obtain a patent and all. Definitely, it is excludable because if you don't have the, if you have not paid for it, you are not going to get that. What about rivalry? Is it rival or non-rival? What do you all think? Think. Rival or non-rival? They're saying a specific research on cholesterol lowering drug for which a patent can be obtained. So is it rival? Is it non-rival? Think, Lamai. If I get a patent and if I get this specific research, can you get it? Let's say some doctor has published a research. I am a healthcare company. What happens? I paid for this and I got it. What can happen? You can't get it, right? Once I get it, you're not able to get. So therefore, what can we say? We can say this is excludable and also it is rival. So excludable and rival, what type of good? It's a private good. Is that fine, guys? So you don't have to explain, you don't have to go into detail and talk about anything. As long as you have labeled the types of goods, it's more than enough. So, okay. We'll move to question number 2. Now, This one again is a very common one. How do you justify government intervention in a free market? So why should the government intervene into a free market? Remember, we discussed in the previous papers. So one reason government should intervene into the free market is to what? Is to ensure, monada, ensure efficient allocation of resources. To ensure efficient allocation of resources, what will the government do? They will provide public goods, they will encourage the production of merit goods, they will discourage the consumption of demerit goods, they'll do so many different things. Then also, to minimize what? To minimize income disparities. That's another reason why you should have the government to intervene. Then to ensure, you can say ensure macroeconomic stability. So see, these are the three main reasons for market failure, no? Inefficiency in resource allocation, income disparities, and macroeconomic instability. So to correct those, government has to come. Those are the main three reasons. In addition to that, Lama, you can also talk about to promote economic growth and development. Okay, promote economic growth and development. You can say about providing infrastructure facilities, let's say creating a legal framework. You can write all of those. It's a very common question that has been tested over and over again. Under MS, how to expenses? Macroeconomic stability. So macroeconomic stability only to make sure the government has their fiscal and monetary policy to control aggregate demand, aggregate supply, and thereby to control inflation, unemployment rates, exchange rates. So to make sure the whole macroeconomy is stable, to make sure there is no very high inflation, there is no very high unemployment, they will use their policies and ensure there is macroeconomic stability. Okay, that's also easy. We'll go to this. Ayyo. Distinguish between vertical equity. No, you don't have to explain, guys. They're just asking how do you justify. If you want, you can write maybe one or two lines also. Since they are not direct saying state, maybe write around one or two lines in this should be perfectly fine. You don't have to write pages and pages of an answer. Distinguish between vertical equity and horizontal equity. Simple, no, guys. What is vertical equity? Vertical equity is where people should be paying taxes based on their ability to pay. People should be paying taxes based on their ability to pay. So people with higher incomes should be paying a higher percentage as tax because they are able to pay more tax. Someone who is earning 500,000 is rich enough to pay more tax compared to someone who is earning just 50,000. So vertical equity is saying people who earn more has to pay more. People who are earning less will be paying less amount as tax. So that is what you call vertical equity. So Lamai, now I am not giving you a word by word answer. You look at your tute and you write. I'm just explaining the answer for you. Okay. So vertical equity is, let's say someone is earning 500,000. Then there is another person earning, let's say 150,000. And there is another person, let's say earning 50,000. So these three parties should not be paying the same percentage as tax. Then that's not fair because the 500,000 earning person is able to pay more. No, he's rich enough. So maybe what you should do is this 500,000 earning person, let's say he pays a 30% tax. It's not, this is not what you call pay as you earn. That's a different one. Don't connect pay here. Okay. Maybe this guy pays a 20% tax. And maybe this guy pays 0%. Maybe 50,000 fellow, he doesn't have to pay tax. So that is what you call vertical equity. As your income rises, you need to be paying higher amounts as taxes. Then what is horizontal equity? Horizontal equity is where people at the same income level or people that have the same income capacity should be paying the same tax. Now let's say there is you who is earning 150,000. There is me also who is earning 150,000. There is your neighbor also earning 150,000. Now, if all three of us earning 150,000 are paying different amounts of taxes, That is unfair. I am earning 150, I am paying 20%. You're earning 150,000, but you're paying 30%. So that's unfair. So horizontal equity means everyone at the same income level should be paying the same proportion as that. So everyone earning 150,000, let's say, should be paying 20%. So that is what you call horizontal equity. So for 2 marks, you talk about what is vertical. For 2 marks, you can talk about horizontal equity. Yes, you can say progressive taxes can be, vertical equity can be achieved by charging progressive taxes. Is that fine, guys? 2 marks, 2 marks, you need to talk about. So you need to learn how to put this into words now. Look at your tute and you need to practice. Then question number 4. They are asking, why do economists argue that budget deficits? There is no real example for horizontal equity, Lamai, but if you're charging the same tax at the same income, you can, so that's a horizontal equity. Okay. Why do economists argue that budget deficits contribute to increase market rates of interest and reduce private investment? There is 2 ways, Lamai. In an economy, listen carefully. One is the crowding out effect story, and there's another one as well. In an economy, the amount of investments, okay, amount of investments depends on what? Amount of investments depend on how much of savings is there in that economy. Because if no one is saving, there can't be investments. Now, how do you invest? Now, when we are talking about investments here, we are referring to productive real investments, are not investing in stock exchange or stuff, right? Productive real investments, starting a factory, building a new, let's say, building and expanding your business, maybe getting a machine. Those kind of investments is what we talk. So now, Lamai, in a country, if you look at how is domestic savings formed? Domestic savings, yeah, this is one way. Domestic savings in a country, okay, is what? Is your one way is saying investment plus net export. That's a different way. But you can also say, Lamai, this is private savings. Domestic savings in a country is private savings plus public savings, no? Private savings plus public savings. Public savings means the government savings. So can you tell me what will happen if there is a budget deficit? What will happen to public savings? When there is a budget deficit, what happens to this? The amount of money that the government is saving. What happens? Comes down, no? There is no public savings because public savings will be negative if there is a budget deficit. So public savings are coming down means, guys, overall what's happening? Your domestic savings are coming down. So there is now the government is not saving anything. So if your savings are coming down, Lamai, what happens to the funds available in the loanable fund market? Funds available for loans, let's say, in the loanable fund market, what happens now? How much the amount of funds that is available to give out as loans? Now, what is saved, no, Lamai, can go out as loans. Someone goes and puts the money in the bank. Then no, you can give that as loans. So when the public savings are coming down, on one side, what happens? The amount of funds in the loanable fund market will come down. So now there is very little funds in the loanable fund market. So everyone is now fighting to get this. So what happens to interest rates then? What happens to interest rate? There's very little funds in the loanable fund market. Interest rates will start to rise. A loanable fund market, Lama, is the commercial banks, the money in commercial banks that people can borrow. Interest rates will rise. When interest rates rise, what will happen? Private sector investments will come down. This is one way of explaining it. Not one way, I'll say there are 2 correct methods. This is one story. Then in addition to this, Lamai, when the government is running a budget deficit, we learned that their public savings are going down. How do they finance this budget deficit? When there is a budget deficit, okay, On one side, public savings are coming down, therefore domestic savings come down, the story that I explained. On the other side, in addition to having a budget deficit, these fellows are also having no savings. You know what they do? These fellows go and borrow, Nilamai. Yes, they print money also, that's a different story. That's when they borrow from the central bank. Also, they go and borrow from the commercial banks. Now, commercial banks already have less money because savings have come down. Not just that, these fellows now, the banks also, given that they have a budget deficit, what do? They borrow from, they borrow from, they borrow from commercial banks. So when they borrow from the commercial banks, again what happens? Again what happens? The amount of money in the commercial banks that they can give out as loans falls, no? So on one side, savings are not coming because government is not saving anything. On the other side, government is coming and taking all the money that the private sector would have saved. So that is what you call the crowding out effect. So what is the crowding out effect? When the government comes and does what? When the government comes and borrows money from the commercial banks. So when government comes and borrows money from commercial banks, what does it lead to, Lamai? You all need to say it leads to a decrease in, right? Decrease in the funds available, for loans. So now there is very little money available for loans. There's a decrease in fund available for loans. Now everyone is fighting, no? That's what you call crowding out. Now, so many people want to get that. Little money is there, but everyone wants to borrow now. So as a result, what happens? Interest rates will increase. Interest rates increase, and this will lead to private investments coming down. That's the story of the crowding out effect. So you can write this in 2 paragraphs, Lama. On 1 paragraph, you can explain how when there is a budget deficit, public savings are coming down. So when public savings come down, domestic savings will reduce. So there is no savings means there will not be much money in the loanable fund market. Therefore, interest rates can increase and private investment will go down. That's one. Then you can say further, in addition to this, when the government has a budget deficit, they will try to finance it using the commercial banking system. So when governments finance it through the commercial banks and borrow money, then what happens? Again, it leads to a shortage of funds in the loanable fund market. This will create what? Result in a crowding out effect, and interest rates and all goes up, and that story. You don't have to talk about monetary accommodation here, guys. Not needed. Okay, is that fine? So for 2 marks, you explain this story. For 2 marks, you explain this story. So, these are not very hard, but you all have to write and practice, Lamai, because otherwise you will not find the perfect combination of words to write a nice answer. The questions are not that hard, but why will private investors go down when interest rate increase? It's expensive to borrow. Now, let's say, for example, I wanted to start a factory. Now, usually I will start a factory by borrowing. No, I don't have money with me. So I will take a loan and I will start my factory. So when the interest rates are, let's say, around 20-30%, will I take a loan and start a factory? No. I will say, no, never mind. Next year, when the interest rates go down, I will take a loan and I'll start my factory. So when interest rates increase, private sector investments come down. Now, that's what happened. If you were practically figuring out what happened, remember last year? Why did private sector investment it's there in the seminar also. Why did private sector investment come down badly last year? Why did we have negative economic growth? Main reason was high levels of interest rate. When interest rates are high, private consumption comes down, investment come down, all will start to come down. Okay. Now, then my question number 5. Okay. This one is saying government, now this can be a little outdated, the answer that might be there in your past paper book. Government debt to GDP still remains very high when compared to other countries in the region. Outline the measures taken by the government of Sri Lanka to ensure sustainable debt levels in the medium and long term. So what kind of measures are we taking now? We'll just think, Lamai. what is our, what can we write now? Now our debt already has become unsustainable and we defaulted on that also. Now what are we taking to make sure our debt is sustainable? That means sustainable debt කියන්නේ ළමයි, you can continuously keep on repaying. No problem. There will not be issues. You can still, repay this little by little and you can continue going. So what? One thing you can definitely write, lamai, what are we doing now? Right now, we are focusing on what? We are restructuring, no? You can talk about debt restructuring. So how are you restructuring your debt? There is a domestic debt restructure. Okay, our domestic debt we are restructuring, and also we are speaking with our external creditors, people like China, India, Japan, right? We are speaking with them and we are trying to get our external debt also restructured. Now external debt we anyway defaulted it, no, because it became unsustainable. We didn't have reserves to pay it, so we defaulted. Last year we said, look here, we can't pay. So now what are we doing? Now we are negotiating with these people and we are restructuring those debt. So restructuring means monadana. Remember I told you, so debt restructuring, remember there was a question also. Debt restructuring can come in different ways. One is you can ask for a maturity extension. This is the most common one, Lamai. You can tell them, look here, I can't pay this in 5 years. Can I pay this in 20 years? So then little by little, no, you have to pay. So that makes it more sustainable. Rather than paying, let's say, 1,000 million for 5 years, you will say, I will pay, let's say, 200 million for 20 years. That kind of a thing. Maturity extends. You can also ask for coupon reductions. What is coupon reductions, Lamai? Coupon reduction is reducing the interest rate. Now, if China has given us a loan at, let's say, 10%, we tell them, can't we do something? Can we make it 5%? So you reduce it like that. That's also debt restructure. You can also, Lamai, have a face value reduction. This is very uncommon, right? Face value reduction. This is what you call a haircut. Okay, face value reduction. We call this a haircut on the debt. This is what you call a reduction in the total amount. Let's say we have to pay China 1 billion. So we talk to China and say, can you cut off some of this? We will pay half a billion. That's what you call a face value reduction. You directly cut off the loan. But this is very uncommon, guys. Now, China won't agree. No. Now, if you have to repay me a loan, right now you're coming and saying, look, yes, sir, I don't have money. Can you restructure this loan for me? So first thing I will say, right, I will give you some extra time to pay. I won't say, okay, right, never mind, pay only half of it. See, that's why we call the face value reduction. This is the worst thing for the lender. For China, this is very bad. But if we get a face value reduction, Lamai, for us, it's very good because that is the most beneficial for us because it cuts off the loan. Perfect. But as a lender's perspective, that is very bad because they are losing a lot. So therefore, Lamai, it's not easy. Restructuring this and all is not easy, guys, because currently now, why is it being delayed? It's delayed because now China is looking at what India is going to do. China is worried now. For example, let's say if we get a maturity extension, let's say for the Chinese loan, we got the 5-year loan. Let's say we extended to 20 years. Then let's say China gave us this, but India said no, 5-year loan maximum we will extend to 10 years. Then China will be like, look here, India is saying, well, 10 years. Why are you asking 20 years from me? Those kind of things come. Then let's say even coupon, the interest rate reduction. Let's say India cut the interest rate from 5% to 2%. Then China will say, okay, I also will cut only 2%. I can't cut more than that. So India will look at what China is doing. China will look at what India is doing. Then there is the Paris Club with Japan and all the other creditors. They will also look at what the others are doing. So restructuring this Lama is not easy. Now, even inside China, there are so many people who have given loans. There is the Chinese government, there is the Exim Bank of China, there is the People's Bank of China. So different people have given us loans. Now, let's say, for example, in Sri Lanka, let's say there are banks, Lamai Sampath Bank, Commercial Bank, HNB. So like those, there are banks in China. All of these fellows have given us loans. So People's Bank in China is saying, no, I want terms like this. Otherwise, I am going on loss. Exim Bank in China is saying, nah, mehema shape matter. So restructuring, this is not very easy. And one main reason that our IMF now, we were supposed to get the second tranche, no guys, after the first review. Why it is being delayed? One main reason is because we haven't finalized our restructuring terms yet. So most likely the government budget will also be out next month. And remember, these are very interesting stuff there. The IMF has given targets to certain revenue targets, certain expense targets they have given. So IMF is now, they are wondering, remember, I've taught you all, during an election year, what happens? During an election year, to win the election, what does the government do? They increase their expenditure, no? They increase government salaries, right? Now that will very soon happen. Now, see, if I'm not like, probably towards the start of next year, with the new budget, Ranil will promise a salary hike for government workers, because next year is election year. He doesn't want to lose those votes. There will be a hike in public sector salaries. So already all know, Lamai, we have a budget deficit, no? So in addition to that, if they increase salaries now, I understand people are also suffering, you have to. But see, they might. Very sure they will increase salaries. And I don't think they will play around with taxes much, because they can't play. Now, Gota did that though. Gota said, right, I will reduce tax and all. I don't think Ranil will do that, because people are now smart enough. People know if you reduce taxes, again, there could be a crisis. So somehow, during an election year, the budget, now Ranil is the one making the budget. Now these days, they are making the budget. In November, he will present it to the parliament. So for next year, he will make a budget that is a little people friendly, that might reduce the taxes, that might increase expenditure and give help to people. So IMF has said, look here, I am not going to give you the second set of money now itself. I'm going to wait until you release your budget. I'm going to see what type of policies you're coming up. Only if I'm satisfied, along with that, if you have restructured your debt, then only I'll give you the second set of money. Now, we were supposed to get the second set of money somewhere around in September, October. Still no signs of it. So most likely, I feel that will come after the government budget. Budget reading is somewhere towards the 20 odds of November. Once that happens, IMF will look at the budget, see if these fellows have done any crazy things with the budget, reduced the expenditure or increased it, or what have they done. And if they're satisfied, and if we have got the external debt properly sorted, the terms, then they will give them. We've not completely achieved the IMF first review targets. Most of it we have come close, we have done well, but not completely achieved. So therefore, IMF has not given us the money yet. Okay, that's the other stories for later. So that's one thing we can do, Lamai. We can restructure our debt. That's what we are doing currently. In addition to this, Lamai, now why do we have debt? We have debt because we have a budget deficit. Because you have a budget deficit only, you have debt, no? Because when you have budget deficit, you have to borrow, you end up with debt. So how can you eliminate this? To eliminate this, what can you do? You can, right, take measures to reduce the budget deficit. Now, what is the government doing? Especially, Lamai, they are trying to reduce the primary deficit. That's what they are trying to remove. So, because interest cost and all, you can't change, no? Remember, what is the primary account balance? Primary account balance is your budget deficit without interest payment. Interest payment, you can't do anything, no? You have to pay that, no? So, we are trying to achieve a primary account surplus. So, there are IMF targets as well. So, you can talk about measures to increase revenue, cutting down non-essential expenditure. Now, see, last year with Ranil coming into power, he increased income taxes, increased VAT, all of that went up, no? And he's now trying to expand the tax base, like new taxes are being introduced. So, all of that measures to increase revenue and also cutting off non-essential expenditure. So, that way, what happens? Your budget deficit comes down. So budget deficit comes down, what happens? You can now make sure that your debt is sustainable, that your debt doesn't keep on increasing. So this you can break it into points and give Lama. You don't have to put everything in one point. You can talk about how the government is taking measures to increase revenue, how the government is taking measures to reduce expenditure, then how they are talking about, let's say, debt restructuring. And also, Lama, to make this sustainable, you can also talk about things like this, things like private public partnerships, PPP, private public partnerships. This is where for our capital investments, we don't borrow. we get into partnerships. Now, for example, the port city. The port city project that is happening in Colombo, Lamai, you all would have heard, no? The port city project, that is not a loan. That's a private-public partnership. So, government of Sri Lanka has partnered with a Chinese firm. So, they have got into an agreement where some of the revenue of that goes to China. I don't know the exact terms of the contract that they got into, but it's not a loan. But see, overall, our country is getting developed now. So there is a whole port city being developed, right? Right now, there are only these fun activities, but going forward, there will be businesses and all of that in that area. So that's like an entire different city like Colombo. So there is development, but you're developing without borrowing. So that can also help with Manadulama. That can also help with not increasing your this. So mainly, yes, port city is one of the main ones that we have right now. Okay, and also you can talk about Lamai attracting FDIs. This can also be a solution. One Goldface, I'm not very sure. I don't think it's a. I think it's a private Sri Lankan company. There is no government involved. Okay, so things like foreign direct investments, those are also not loans, no. So you can encourage those. So things like that, you all can write Lamai. Okay, I'll give you all the latest measures probably towards the final seminar with everything that is there for now. For now, you all can remember all of this. Is it fine? Shape 2018. Okay. See, only the last question was a current context question. Everything else was normal theory, and one was a current context. So this kind of format is what you might also see in your paper. Maybe one current context, or maybe two, or maybe one current context for 8 marks. So maximum current context is going to be around 8 marks, guys. If they give it for more than that, I will like the paper, but I don't think that will be hard for students now. But they can, but maximum I feel 8 marks would be for current context, maximum. Usually 4 to 6 marks. Maximum they can give around 8 marks for current context. That means the other questions are normal. Why does the government intervene? What are the properties of tax system? Draw externality diagram and show. So very easy. Just remember, if you want your A, at least get 15. Enough, no? We'll target for more, but 15 you can get your A. Okay, done.